What if the spores and bizarre fruit around Strangerville weren't something to be avoided, but actually embraced? The patrons of this luxury spa sure think so. They see being possessed by the mother plant as a higher state of being and an avenue for vitality. With their underground strange plant hot springs, crystal cave sauna, and cowplant farm, they have an odd perspective on self-care. But maybe they're onto something. Spring, and I guess now summer, have been a roller coaster of a time, as I'm sure many of y'all can relate, meaning some self-care has definitely been in order, so I turned to The Sims 4 to let out some of my creative energy and live vicariously through this game once again, as is my go-to. Thinking of what I wanted to create, a spa seemed the natural choice. However, I am not a big spa person, so I was thinking to myself, how can I make this more me? More weird. My brain immediately went to aliens, as it tends to do, and I love that. So here we are, making a very odd, somewhat culty spa in Strangerville. This is a place created by the super rich, super out of touch, wacky Sims of the area who've taken the mother plant thing in an even stranger direction by creating a whole wellness industry out of it. Instead of keeping a healthy distance from all the spores, as is advisable, these Sims say, bring me more and let's double down with some cowplants while we're at it. This boutique spa has bizarre plants and vines integrated everywhere they can fit, underground crystal hot springs, and even a mini cowplant farm for when all that tripping on hive mind spores get you parched. So basically all of the treatments you need to better connect yourself to the galactic divine, both terrestrial and extraterrestrial. Transcendence not guaranteed, user experience may vary. Any possessions, abductions, or death that may occur during or after visiting these facilities or using its treatments are happenstance and the spa may not be held liable. So yeah, it is a great place to unwind and disconnect from whatever small, mortal, earthly worries are bothering you. All your stressors don't feel so important when you're in the jaws of a cowplant or being the puppet of an intergalactic horror. Yeah, so rejuvenating. I wanted the shape of this building to be reflective of the strangeness within, so I went with this angular hexagonal shape for the center and lots of diagonal walls for the shell. These sharp geometric forms lend themselves both to the alien-like and the desert-style architecture of this place, which is a fun new combo for me that I'm really liking. Figuring out the exterior colors, doors, and windows took a lot of tinkering. I really liked how they res match with the red rocks in the surrounding world, and I kept it for a while, but ultimately I swapped it out for the white colors. Those match better with the strange plant colors, and also seem more of an exclusive spa color scheme as well. I'll have to come back to those reds for some other build in Strangerville though, because I really do like how they look in this world. The above ground level of this building will be the more typical spa area. The left and right wings will have a few massage tables, and the big central room will have space for pedicures and manicures, as well as a juice bar and some lounging space. The basement is where things get a bit more weird, but we'll get into that later. I wanted this space to feel very open, but somewhat imposing, with all of the stone, big pillars, vertical light beams, and tall ceilings. This is still a spa and meant to be relaxing, so to soften these harsher features a bit, I added in some more organic elements with the plants, wood floors, and a few circular decor pieces like the main chandelier near the entrance. I love making custom lighting fixtures in this game, so I layered those hanging pothos from Blooming Rooms inside the modern chandelier from Dine Out. Then this is where the strange plants start to come in. I sized down some of those Strangerville wall vines and tucked them into the greenery here. Then around the entryway, I went ahead and swapped out the generic plant walls for some custom ones that I made with the strange vines. Now that I put in some of these Strangerville plants, I was seeing how the red stone walls were clashing with the blues and purples of the plants, and I decided to change out the base color palette to be white. That way the colors of these plants would stand out against it. I really liked how creamy the cement walls looked outside in the natural light, but inside those same wall coverings looked super cold and sterile. To counteract that, I ended up using a different warm white wall inside and adjusted the lighting to be warmer. With that, the walls were looking much better, but the light floors were not working anymore. So I changed those out to be a darker, neutral brown wood instead. Rich people seem to love these natural brutalist color palettes, so to tone down the very vibrant colors of these strange plants, I used this dusty pink, mauve-y color here and there throughout the space. I painted some of the walls with it, and also integrated it into the plants by using those dried flowers from Journey to Batu in with them to tone things down a bit. Layering these different plants in muted colors definitely helped make this place look more upscale and keeps it from veering too gaudy. Under the chandelier, I put the stairs to the basement, but it was a whole ordeal to get them to work right because of the platforms, so we'll skip over that mess and continue with decorating up here instead. On your left when you walk inside is the juice bar. These geometric stone counters worked perfectly for this space. It did take me quite a lot of trial and error to figure out what I wanted to do on the wall behind them though. I initially put in some glass cabinets with a mirrored backsplash, but that just wasn't looking luxury enough to me. Then I tried the mirrors with an overlaid sign, which was closer but still not quite it. I did, however, like those backlit mirrors over top of the glass shelves, so I kept that part. Eventually, I came to using that typography sign over top of the Spa Day flower sign. I think that design looks like it could be a stylized version of the mother's open maw that they turned into a zen-looking logo for this space. I loved that idea, so I just flanked that with some tasteful strange vine wall planters. You'll notice that mother plant flower logo sprinkled around in a few other spots too. To fill out the countertops a bit and make it look more like a juice bar and not a regular bar, I placed a few kava bowls, a tea maker, and a drink serving tray on them. The wall to the right when you walk in was this huge empty space that I wasn't quite sure what to do with, since I had already thought through where I wanted to put all of the main spa stuff elsewhere. So I ended up making it a sort of lounging relaxation space. I set up these individual pod things with the shady lounges, sectioned off by these modern aquariums lifted up on stone pedestals, so you'll be sort of cocooned in this watery sound bath thing. It seems like a weird fancy spa thing to me, but I don't know for real. It ends up looking cool at least. It wasn't feeling cozy enough with just the lounge chairs and aquariums, so I surrounded this area with the sheer curtains from Desert Luxe kit. Adding these really helped section off this area and make it look like an intentionally designed space and not just some random junk shoved into the corner to fill the room up, even though that is essentially the purpose of me creating this area. I had more empty space in the center behind the stairwell, so I filled that with another sitting area, this time a more casual one. That round aquarium table from my first pet stuff was the perfect piece to add here, as its shape helps to soften the geometric structure of this place, and the water bit helps to integrate those odd aquarium pots. Plus, water sounds are relaxing, so it fits in with a spa. Now, this is a Strangerville themed spa, so we had to integrate plenty of strange plants into this place. Ended up tucking some of those spores and strange buds into this table by sizing them down with the bracket key and raising them up with the 9 key to make it look like they're growing in the water. The regular aquariums got the same treatment. I use these statue versions of these strange plants for this though, just to make sure that there aren't any issues with them dying off or anything, since they won't really be accessible to your Sims. I ended up having a lot of fun finding all sorts of spots to tuck these plants into throughout this build. This central room was looking pretty good at this point, but the manicure pedicure area was just sort of floating there and didn't look special enough for me. So to separate that area and make it more interesting, I ended up sectioning it off with some half walls and sinking its platform down by 1. I still wanted this space to feel very open, so I made that a glass wall to let light through, but layered those wooden slats from Eco Lifestyle to still give it a bit of privacy and separation between the areas. This wall will be one of the first things that you see when you walk into the space, so I hung up another one of those branded name signs here. And with that, the main part of the upstairs is finished. I decorate the massage rooms off camera, but you'll get to see those in the tour at the end. For now, we'll move on to the basement level. Now, this is where things start to get weird. At first, it seems pretty normal. Down here we have a pair of locker rooms, the hot springs, a sauna, and a meditation room. Though trust me, they are all a bit more funky than they first seem. I wanted there to be a noticeable shift coming down here. I ended up going with darker colors, leaning more into the dark blues and purples than the fresher, lighter colors we have upstairs. The bright blue of those glass doors is perfect for this place, and I've never used that colorway before, so I really enjoyed getting to add them in here. Sure, having a see-through glass door into a public toilet is weird, but this is a weird place. You can also pretend that they're the fancy glass that can fog up when you lock the doors, so then that's totally not weird if that's the case. It's not, but you can pretend. Each of these locker rooms also has a pair of snowy escape toilets with the bright blue lighted bowls, a pair of showers, and a few lockers. They're not all that interesting and I change up the colors later, but you kind of get the gist of it, so we'll move on. That blue cement flooring is too wild not to take the opportunity to use here. To make it feel more magical down here, I painted the ceilings with the dark blue starry sky wallpaper from Horse Ranch. Imagine lying in an underground hot spring staring up at that wall. So cool. I wanted the stair landing down here to be more interesting and lean into the mother plant theme, so I carved out a little niche and used it to make a sort of bizarre altar with a blooming strange plant as the focal point. I covered the back wall with the same plants I used on the green wall upstairs, then on the floor of it I planted this blue flower ground cover and raised up the platform. It was looking pretty, but it wasn't wowing me yet. So I swapped out the plain archway for hot pink lighted pillars and draped some lush hanging flowers over it. Now that's an altar worthy of the mother. Moving on to the hot springs, it's time to get this room looking more mystical and bizarre plant themed. Many of the colorways of those romantic garden stuff art just look so out of place in most scenarios, but down here they fit right in with what we're going for. On the wall behind them, I sized up more of those strange vines. That was looking like a good base, and the next thing to do was to fill out this area with a bunch of plants. There were actually a ton of great plant options that have bright pinks, purples, and blues, so having to pare down my selection was a pleasant surprise. I used more of those blue flowers that I used in the niche as the ground cover here. For the rest of the plants, I went with a combination of desert plants and ones that looked alien. So there's some plants from Batu, Romantic Garden, Sixham, and of course our therapeutic strange plants all layered in here. I love landscaping in this game, and having such a weird collection of plants and colors was so fun. Plus it's all underground, which is a cool mix-up of regular landscaping. This is making me interested to do more builds with funky plants. Maybe something underwater, in outer space, or futuristic? If you have ideas of what else I could do like this, definitely let me know. The small room in the back right corner is the sauna. I wanted to keep with the funky shaped rooms for this area too, so that means the actual sauna item doesn't fit snugly in here. This was the goal though, because this extra empty space on the sides gives us room to make it more magical in here. I wanted it to feel like you're tucked into a secret little cave. To achieve this look, I first used some debug boulders that I sized down as much as possible to give the walls in here a more natural cave-like texture. It was looking good, but we're in a very wooey, out there place here in Strangerville, so it needed more. An intimate cave sauna sounds like just a generic luxury spa feature. Pretty cool, but not enough. A secret underground crystal cave sauna? Now that sounds like a treatment you'd find in this culty, alien-obsessed spa, right? So I got these huge crystal formations and tucked them in all around the boulders. Those few crystals really changed the feel of this whole room. I love the bright colors that modern waterfall item comes in, so I really wanted to find a place for it on this lot. The hot pink worked well with the crystals, so I used a few of them to create a feature wall at the back of this room. The trickling water would be a really relaxing noise to listen to while you're soaking in all those crystal energies. You could also probably splash it on the hot rocks to make this place a steam room too, if that's more your speed. This place is all about the strange plants, so I made sure to hang up more of those vines around the walls here. Again, these matched so well with those waterfalls. Off camera, I adjusted the lighting in here to really set the mood, but we'll check that out later, along with what I made the other little back room into. Here I am setting up some moody lighting around the hot springs. This is really the finishing touch that makes this space feel so much more mysterious and relaxing. But we don't have time to settle into that quite yet. We still have an entire exterior to finish. So let's move back outside to work on the spa amenities that we're going to have out there. We needed a place for Sims to do yoga, and with the weather being so warm and sunny here, outdoor sessions would be great. Plus, once the Strangerville storyline really gets going, you'll be able to get plenty of passive exposure to the spores during classes. You'll be stretching your physical body at the same time you're stretching your mind to become one with the mother. What a wonderful, healthy vessel you'll make. This is your mantra for your practice. Namaste. The magenta flowers on this pergola work really well with our color palette for this place. And once I got the mats rolled out and the back wall sorted, I went ahead and wove in more of the strange vines into these flowers. I am telling you, pretty much anywhere I could put some of these things, I was putting them. These plants are so bizarre, hyper-specific, and obnoxiously colored, but I had a blast puzzling through how I could integrate them everywhere and make them look sophisticated and zen. It was a tall order, but a fun challenge that I think I ultimately accomplished in the end. In the back right corner of the lot, I carved out space for a cowplant garden, because I figured if you're unhinged enough to believe the mother plant is good for you, you're wacky enough to think getting eaten by a cowplant is also good. Why exactly these spa goers believe this? I don't know. I can see them using the milk as some sort of a health tonic, but I also see them wanting to get eaten and spit out too. But I haven't thought through the reasoning for why that might be. Let me know your theories as to why they'd like this, cause I don't understand, but I know it to be true for them, for sure. I wanted to fit more cowplants over here, but there just wasn't enough room in this corner to comfortably fit more than 2, so that's all we have, but we'll say these are just really some special ones, alright? Creating a sunken garden with the platforms for this area was such a pain in the ass, as usual, so I cut out a bunch of that cause it was so frustrating. This was supposed to be a relaxing self-care build for me, but of course I chose to make it complicated for myself by dealing with angled walls, platforms, and basements. I think I'm just incapable of keeping things simple in this game. I do this to myself, I know, but it's worth it in the end, usually. To make our chosen 2 cow plants feel extra special, I really built up the area around them. They're surrounded by those cool raised garden beds from Eco Lifestyle, then behind them I put up those geometric trellis things along with the rosebush privacy fences. To further define this area, I put up a pair of pergolas over top of everything. Those really helped make the cowplants look more shrine-like, which I liked. I was left with a bunch of extra space in front of these, which wasn't enough to really put in more cowplants, so to fill it in, I made a bubble-blowing lounge area. The rounded sectional couches help to soften the rigid lines we have going on out here, and also feel easier to traverse around in this somewhat tight space. That sized up rug was the perfect shape, and it fit in so well with the colors we have going on here. Now that I had all the main items placed down and the shape figured out for this space, I went ahead and adjusted the platforms to get the sunken look I was going for. I put in some desert plants around the edges to fill out the space. It's nothing too technical, so we'll go ahead and skip forward a bit. Alright, how about a few life updates? Good things I think, but maybe also dumb? So I quit my full-time salary job for 2 part-time hourly baking jobs. Probably not the smartest decision financially, but hopefully the right choice for my mental health. I can't even say specifically what about my ex-job was so bad. Like, on paper it seemed like a good job. It was a nonprofit position where I did things that helped others. It was mostly work from home, and I think I was pretty good at most of what I did, yet it still was just slowly crushing my soul for some reason. I know there are much worse jobs out there, and I feel like I should have been okay with it, yet for some reason, I was crashing out about it like every other week, and it zapped out all of my motivation to do anything. Maybe it was the poor work culture, or maybe I'm just not cut out for office work, or maybe a bit of both. Whatever the reasoning, I finally got out. I love baking no matter how complicated, and have always wondered about working in a professional bakery, so I am excited to finally be getting the chance to try that out. It seems like a fun learning opportunity, and the early morning hours sound perfect to me. Plus, part-time work should hopefully give me more time to do personal projects and stuff. For instance, I'm trying to work on my drawing skills by making a fan-made graphic novel conversion of a spicy book I love. I've fallen way behind on working on that, so hopefully this change will help me get back on track. Though I had to take on 2 part-time jobs, so maybe not so much, but I'm gonna try. If anyone else has made any big, possibly ill-advised career shifts for your own health and sanity, definitely let me know. I could use some reassurance or tips for sure. In other personal news, I've also been doing a burlesque class. I've been wanting to learn burlesque for so long, and I finally signed up for a weekly class where we're learning a whole chair choreography routine, and at the end of the class we get to join a full-on show to do our performance. So that will be nerve-wracking, but also should be super fun. If all that goes well this weekend and I can keep learning more routines, maybe that could be another way for me to make a little extra money and soften the blow from dropping down to part-time. Either way, it'll be good for me, and I am looking forward to better mental health and work-life balance that should be ahead. So it's all a bit scary, but I feel hopeful and excited to see how all of this goes. Yeah, so updates to come in future videos. On either side of the entryway are these huge stepped planters. It's all probably a little bit overkill, but that's just how I like my plants, even in a desert when it is not super practical. I do the same thing on the other side, so let's skip ahead to take a tour of the final form of this build. Here we are at the Strangerville spa, emphasis on the strange. I probably went a little bit overboard with the landscaping for a desert lot, but whatever. I did place a couple of usable strange plants out front here so your Sims can harvest the bizarre fruit and really get into the spirit of this place. As soon as you walk inside, there are lockers where you can get changed into a plush robe while you're here. I also put in one of the mini cowplants on the check-in desk to greet your Sims when they arrive. The juice and kava bar is over here. There's already somebody attending to it, so that's good. I did playtest this place, and amazingly, everything worked, and I didn't have to make any changes. I layer a lot of items, so this usually never happens in my builds, but miraculously, this one was perfect. I didn't show off these side rooms being built, so here they are now. Over here is a massage room, plus the ground level bathroom. They're both pretty simple and relaxing with the warm woods and calm colors. On the opposite side are two more massage rooms, just like the one that was over there. These cool little aquarium alcoves not only look cool, but your Sims can actually use the lounge chairs, which I was surprised about. This would be a great spot to kick back and relax as you listen to the ocean sounds. Moving underground, things get a bit funkier down here. As soon as you come down the stairs, you're greeted by this gorgeous altar to our beloved strange plants. Ooh, so mesmerizing. The shower rooms are on the left and right of this stair landing, and they lead us into the main attraction down here, the underground hot springs. Relaxing in this water, surrounded by these alien plants, staring up at the starry ceiling would feel like such an otherworldly experience. Someone would have to literally drag me out of here because I'd float down here all day. Finally getting out of there would be a good thing though, because I'd be able to enjoy this awesome crystal cave sauna. It is so beautiful in here too. The matching room to this you didn't see me build, so let's take a look at that. It is a meditation room that's definitely leaning towards the ritualistic culty side of things. It's intense but looks pretty cool, so just don't worry about the weird things people may or may not be trying to manifest in here. Alright, let's move back upstairs and get some fresh air now. The porch has a nice place to get some sun while you wear your special healing celestial crystal helmets, which are conveniently located on the tables on each end. The center grassy bit has the yoga setup where you can get grounded in your body while surrounding yourself with bizarre spores. Then on each side back here are our sunken cowplant gardens and bubble blowing lounges. Again, I'm not sure why these people like being eaten by cowplants, I just know that they do. Even if that's not your thing, it is a pretty place to hang out at least. Lastly, I had these odd little blank spaces between these areas and the sides of the building, so I turned them into another meditation spot. I also customized the lighting out here, so when the sun goes down, this lot will be all lit up in purples to really sell the whole funky alien vibes. But yeah, that's everything. I hope y'all like this bizarre spa theme as much as I do. It's quite out there, but that's how I like my Sims game. This place really takes me back to the alien weirdness I love from The Sims 2 and that super weird Sims 2 spin-off for the Game Boy. I miss those days. So I really like getting to bring some of that energy into my Sims 4 game with this build. If you've got any more ideas for ways that we can add more weirdness into this game, definitely let me know. I am all in on doing another strange build along these lines, so don't hold back in the comments and send a like my way so I know how many of y'all want to bring back the weird with me. If the Sims team isn't going to go there, we can do it ourselves, right? All that aside though, thank you so much for watching, I truly appreciate it. Remember, be kind to yourself today, and I'll see you next time.